Hello and welcome back to Fallout 76. Today we're going to look at the effect damage resistance can have on reflected damage. So right here, I just want to give a shout out to the Data Miners Discord. This is where I ran across this information. So if you use perks like Bullet Shield or Ricochet or legendary effects like Reflective, the amount of damage resistance you have can actually have a major impact on how much damage is reflected back at the enemy. So in the help menu, this is the description of Deflect, which is what is used by Bullet Shield and Ricochet. And what it amounts to is 100% of enemy damage is reflected back at the attacker when it triggers. If you're wearing power armor, it's 200% of the damage. However, there's more to it than that. If you look at the last line, bonuses to reflected damage also apply to deflected attacks. When I first saw this, when the change was actually put into the game, I didn't know what that meant. But if you look under Reflect in the help menu, it has damage reflection. Some items and abilities may allow damage to be reflected. This damage receives bonuses from having a higher armor rating, but is not affected by perks or other damage modifiers. What that means is that higher damage resistance equals higher damage reflected back at the enemy. So what I want to do is actually show you how big those differences can actually be. So first off, the important thing here is just Ricochet. The rest of the build doesn't actually really matter. Bullet Shield isn't going to matter because I do have it equipped, but I won't be actually shooting a gun, so that's not going to come into play here. And where my luck is, and wearing power armor, my chance to deflect is 21%. So we're actually going to try this with a couple of different resistances. So first off, I have a set of level 10 Raider power armor, and the mods are Troubleshooters, Endurance, Sentinels, and Reflective. So we'll be reflecting back damage from that as well as Ricochet. And the rest of the mods are basically on there just to keep me alive while I'm doing that. But you can see my damage resistance is actually quite low. It's 159 ballistic, 159 energy. The other stuff shouldn't come into play. So the Gleaming Depths, the first area, is actually a good testing ground for this sort of thing. SentryBot has a shield that is actually quite tough, and he attacks you constantly, and he actually does pretty big damage. So what we're going to do is a couple of runs, actually 3 runs here, and we're just going to see what the different resistance levels, how much difference it takes in terms of time to take the shield down. Kind of feels like we have a poor little raider that was put out to sacrifice right here, waiting to meet his maker. But we're just going to stand here. That's why I have Sentinel on there. I'm not going to attack. So I'm just going to stand here and just see how long it takes for the shield to go down. We've already got 25 seconds off the clock before it even starts shooting, so that is something to consider. But I should be able to stay alive. I do have a medic pump as well as Born Survivor, so I shouldn't be in any danger as long as my stim packs hold up, which I think I have plenty. That was something I meant to check, and I just forgot. But as you can see, even with such little damage resistance, we're still doing a decent chunk on the shield, but it will tend to take several minutes for this to actually take the shield down. So what I'm probably going to do here is fast forward a bit. So it looks like the shield is about the halfway point, and we're at 1:53, but remember, 25 seconds went before he started shooting, so probably maybe around 4 minutes or 3 minutes. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. More fast forwarding coming up, though. So it looks like we're probably at about the 75% mark, and it's 2:38, so yeah, little ways to go, more fast forwarding. So the shields are almost down. We're sitting right at 4 minutes, so let's just hang here a bit. And there we go. Shields are down. 4:04 is what it looks like. I will put the exact time on the screen, though, when I'm editing this. So now it's time to try this again with a different set of resistances. All right, for the second go round, I am putting on Iron Stomach, which will give us extra energy and ballistic damage resistance. You can see right here the benefit from Iron Stomach is 87 energy and damage resistance. And the armor we're running now is Vulcan because it has quite high resistance. The effects I have are exactly the same as what I had on the Raider armor: Troubleshooters, Endurance, Sentinels, and Reflective. And you can see our numbers right there. We have 706 ballistic and 746 energy, so quite a bit higher, almost 600 higher than what we were getting on the Raider armor. So before we push the button, I just want to say that I have tested all this stuff more than once, and I've tested it separately as well. I've done a test with Ricochet and Reflective at the same time. I've tested just Ricochet, and I've tested just Reflective without Ricochet using these two sets of armor, just to make sure there was an actual difference between both sets of effects when using higher and lower resistances. Push the button here. I just didn't want to show all of that. That would just been a really long video, and honestly, some of those tests, Reflective alone, I will say, is much slower than Ricochet alone for whatever reason. Even though Ricochet doesn't trigger all of the time, it still took the shields down quicker than Reflective without Ricochet. So I found that to be actually kind of interesting. But it did take a long time. A set of Reflective on the Raider armor, just Reflective only, took, I think it was 10 minutes is how long it took, 9.5, 10 minutes, something like that. That is a lot of time just standing here letting the sentry bot shoot at me. So let's see if we do a little better, or how much better we do with this set versus the Raider set. So we just hit the 1 minute mark, and it looks like we're at about 55% or so. So I think that's going quite a bit quicker than the first test. And it does seem like the chunks of damage that come off when we get either Reflective or Ricochet triggers, the chunks of damage that come off seem to be quite a bit bigger than the first go-round. All right, so this is going actually pretty quick. It looks like we may get there under 2 minutes. I don't know. It kind of depends on when if the shots hit. That's another thing. If the shots miss, it's not obviously going to reflect anything back. So we just hit the 2 minute mark, and we are we're pretty close. That shield is going to come down. It's not going to take much more than a couple of more hits, and there we go. So 2:08, so about 2 minutes quicker. So about a little more than just half the time it took for the Raider. You can see that was a very significant difference. But there's one more thing I want to try. So as you can see, I have added a teammate for this final go. And the reason for that is taking one for the team. Now, taking one for the team causes an enemy to take 40% more damage when they attack you if you're on a team. And it actually does require a teammate, even though it doesn't say that. You actually have to have a teammate for this to work. So in theory, this should cause the shields to go down even quicker. I haven't tested this before. I actually don't know if it's going to work. But since I'm already set up for the test, this seems like an ideal time to find out. So if this works, I'd actually expect the time, what was the last time? 2:08. I would expect that to be shortened by quite a bit. But we always have that 25 seconds or so before before it actually starts attacking. So let's see how this goes. All right, so we're starting off with big chunks off the health. So far so good. But at the moment, it doesn't actually seem, I mean, if it's faster, it is not noticeable. I think the first go around with this armor was about a minute or so before we got to the halfway point, which is kind of the trend we're going. Maybe it was like 55%, I think. So we're about the same spot as we were before. So at the moment, it doesn't look like taking one for the team actually does anything here, because 40% damage is, I mean, that's a significant amount, and that should be noticeable. And so far it is not. All right, so we're at about the minute and 33. So, all right, so now we've got some caught up here. So minute and 33, and wow, okay. Looks like about a minute and 40 seconds to take it down. Okay, so that was quicker. That was like 28 seconds quicker than the first go round, or the first go round with this armor. So definitely that made a big difference. So it didn't look like it did at first, but yeah, it actually made quite a bit of difference. Taking one for the team for the win. Took down the shield in under, wow. Took down the shield just over a minute and a half. That's actually pretty good without firing a shot. So in the past, I have said you don't need to keep chasing higher and higher numbers when it comes to resistances. And the game has changed quite a bit since then, and that no longer is the case when you're talking about reflected damage. This was definitely a fun experiment to do. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit one of the buttons, and I hope you'll join me in the next one. Thank you very much.